foods and beverages group, Clover employees are picketing over an ongoing dispute. A company has taken over Clover in less than 2 years after promising 500 jobs. They have allegedly retrenched thousands. For more on what is happening, we're joined by Mametlwe Sebei, President of the General Industries Workers Union of South Africa. Thank you very much, sir, for your time. So back in 2019, the Competition Commission Tribunal approved the Milko Clover merger. Just remind us about some of the conditions that were given.
Well, part of the conditions were that there will not be any retrenchment as a result of the merger within the period of 3 years, which expires in October 2020. But as you correctly pointed out, since that time, since the takeover, which we opposed because even at the time, we anticipated that it was a hostile takeover, not with the purpose of growing and making money out of growing Clover, but so that they can be able to destroy Clover in order to create a space and a market for an Israeli manufactured dairy products of milk.
So a commitment was given that employees would be retained?
That there will not be any retrenchments until October 2022. We are now in December 2021, and already thousands of workers have lost their jobs. And 2 factories were closed in Western Cape last year. 4 factories are scheduled to be closed now in Northwest, 2 from Free State, and of course the other one here in Gauteng, which is CDD.
And what are you hoping to achieve with the industrial action? What are some of the demands?
Well, I mean, you can appreciate the impacts of this kind of structuring because it goes beyond even just job losses. But I think if you take issues of factory closures and job losses, I mean, the impact on workers, on their families, but also local economies of many, small towns like Lichtenburg in Northwest would be, devastated as a result of this sort of restructuring. And we are saying that it cannot be right that, investment is made from an Israeli-owned company under a pretext that this investment will be benefiting the economy, will be benefiting workers, will be benefiting communities, but instead we see thousands of jobs being lost. We see a destruction of 100-year-old country's biggest dairy product manufacturer. That cannot be right, because if you take as a starting point that investment are meant to be growing the economy, are meant to be growing the industries and creating jobs, this is not it. And that is the reason that we are calling for nationalization of Clover under a democratic control and management of the workers and community, so that Clover can continue to serve the people of this country, can continue to provide, of course, dairy products, and we are on an affordable basis than what is going to be happening. So we are protesting. We have already won a commitment that management can reverse retrenchments of close to 800 workers, but they want to reinstate them on the basis that they accept wage cuts, which would be very savage, in addition to other restructuring that they are proposing, that where they'll be reducing, amount of assistance for drivers from 2 to 1, and they'll be imposing a compressed working week, which will intensify exploitation of workers and, of course, increase their working hours. All of that we reject, and of course we demand a decent wage increases for our members.
Just in terms of expanding on the level of engagement with the employer, what are some of the reasons being put forth for these retrenchments?
So, to get around the conditions that were imposed by Competition Commission, they are using COVID and the lockdowns as a pretext. But first and foremost, we've got to say this is a blatant lie, and it's not difficult to see. To see that, because one, Clover was operating throughout. It is our members who were risking their lives, putting their health on the line, ensuring that the people of this country are fed during a very difficult period of a pandemic when less was very known about this virus and what it entailed. A lot of our members actually contracted COVID over that period, but they continued. And this is a reward that they're getting. But I think as well, we must appreciate the fact that even in 2019, already a lot of these restructurings were under discussions. They were already putting them forward. So they found effect after the event insofar as comment is concerned. The restructuring were always there, and the restructurings were always linked with the takeover of Clover by Melco, which we protested also on the basis of our unflinching working class solidarity with the oppressed people of Palestine. We are a country that has been through apartheid. We are a country that has been brutalized through a very repressive regime based on racial discrimination of the working class, black majority in this country. We cannot stand idle when the people of Palestine who have been dispossessed of the land, because part of the issue is that some of these products that are going to be displacing jobs in this country are actually manufactured in the occupied territories, Palestinian territories, that are under a brutal military occupation, that are being settled by a Jewish, Israeli citizens with impunity and under protection of Israeli Defense Force, which Melco has donated and has been supporting.
It's a rather difficult time of the year, given that we are in the holiday period. Are you hopeful of a positive outcome?
Well, as I've said, I mean, there have been some advances, right? The company was proposing a wage cut of about 20%. They were proposing a wage freeze this year. Already, as we are talking, 4.5% is what we have agreed in terms of an annual wage increase. Secondly, is that they have moved to say they can reinstate about 800 workers that were retrenched last month. But the issue is about the conditions on which they want to reinstate them. If we were to allow that, all that will happen is that, the company, every time that they want to roll back our achievements in terms of the wages of the workers, in terms of the working conditions, they will simply be threatening us with retrenchment. So we totally and absolutely reject this blackmail. We are saying these workers must be reinstated with the conditions under which they were initially employed, and of course, they must also get increase as well as an improvement in their conditions of work, not the kind of a savage, brutal restructuring that Clover want to impose of compressed working week, of one van instead of two van assistants, which would mean that a driver, in addition to driving about 7-8 hours throughout the day, delivering products to shops and other areas where they deliver their products or other retailers, right? In addition to that, they will have to be offloading those products, which is a very heavy work. You can imagine the intensity of exploitation that this would entail for our members, which we reject, which we oppose, and will never agree to.
And just to note that we are making efforts to get a hold of Clover for reaction to this, and that was Mametlwe Sebei, president of the General Industries Workers Union of South Africa. Thank you.